Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. Before we go into this conversation, I do want to talk about a charity event that is coming up at a locals called Jester's Card and Games in Cincinnati, Ohio. So if you're in the area, please stop by. I have the information on the front. It is a 1K event for one of our local players. It might be the store owner, I'm not really sure, but his mom actually just found out she had brain cancer pretty recently. So we're doing a charity event where all prizes, all entry, everything all money wise is going to be donated to their family for whatever they might need it for. And for the prizes, first place is going to get a 2007 Cyber Dragon National Championship map. Second place has a Yggdrasil, if that's how you pronounce it, V1 Verbena. I don't know what that means. Third place is a quarter Century Stampede booster box. Fourth place, some Ultimate Lilos. And then we got some 5th through 6th prizes, and that might be subject to change a little bit based on a few other donations that we might be getting, but it is $30 to enter. So if you are, I guess, generally local to Cincinnati, Ohio, or within the Kentucky area, whatever, please stop by. It will be a great time. That is on June 8th at 1 p.m. at Jester's Cards and Games. So let me delete this real fast. Perfect. I am back today. I have a few guests with me. If you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourself real fast.
Sure.
Wonderful.
Hey, my name's King K. I'm just a Gladiator Beast enjoyer that's been on the deck since 2008, I believe.
Absolute
Basically, when the
OGs.
deck was relevant, way back in the day.
Oh yeah,
I'm
absolute
not as
OGs.
I'm not as illustrious as these Giga Chads with me. I don't have
No,
all these
that's not
top
true.
these
If
guys
you've,
have, but I do enjoy the deck. I love
that's all
talking
we
about
need.
it. I
That's all we
love.
need. If you've ever been on the Edison format Discord within the Gladiator Beast, you definitely know the name King K. And then who else we got?
This is Joshua Johnson, Johnson Boss on DB, and Joshua Johnson mostly in the Discords, I think.
Yeah, if you've ever
But
been
yeah, an
anything
avid
remotely close to
DB.
Edison, you've heard the name Joshua Johnson, that's for sure. But today we're going to throw a curveball. We're not talking about Gladiator Beast. We're going into redo format. And here you see I have up the Inzector list. We're talking about Inzectors. How do you guys feel about Inzectors in redo format?
This
Ooh,
was
Inzectors.
this
I
was a
love that deck.
curveball I was not ready for.
I'm glad, of course. That way we
I'm
can get
ready.
into
My
it
soul
in
is
the
ready.
time. I love Inzectors. I've actually come to enjoy them a lot.
Extremely
No, of
underqualified.
course we're here on Gladiator Beast. I have my list pulled up, and actually, let me pull your guys up real fast so I can share my list so we can actually have a little bit more thorough discussion. But I think today we talked about it a little bit that we want to discuss. How do I get here? Let me go to the chat.
You just share your
Share your
screen and then it'll
screen. It's like
pop
the
up.
Yeah, I'm
second
not
little
really
like
good with
button.
this stuff, but let's see. We're going to talk about share your screen,
Got like a little window with an arrow.
make selection, share
Hopefully, you give them
your
permission
screen.
to Discord.
There we
There
go. You
we
guys should be able to
go.
watch.
All
We're
right.
going to be discussing, I guess, innovations in Gladiator Beast. So maybe some siding techniques. So this is actually card for card my current list at the moment, and I took it a little bit between what Jake topped recently. I guess what
Mhm.
he won with, and then what I played back at Indy. And I really came back down to, man, I really enjoyed Three Dust Tornadoes. I know both of you guys are on the trap stun, triple trap stun, some amount, or maybe double, but some amount of prismas. I know Josh, you just
Hmm.
went pretty far with, was it double Prisma and a Stratos even. So it's funny to see that you're on Stratos after how much you really downplayed it. I guess the previous couple months and the few times I brought it up, you just kind of
Yeah,
you're
I
disgusted by it. But was it?
I think I was.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
think Stratus is interesting because I think back then I only saw. Like, I think I'm a better player now, and I think I see more of the chess matches
Mm,
that you play with Stratos of just like the piece exchange, the +1. I don't really care about. I remember debating a lot about like the thinning of the deck, and I don't really care about the thinning of the deck factor of Stratos.
yeah.
But I think the exchange of Stratos to eat something and go positive, and then also put a Prisma online is extremely valuable. And basically outside of like a couple of the matchups in the meta, that's like a good exchange into like what feels like everything. And so
Yeah.
that's I think where I landed on the past or
And it's,
landed more recently.
obviously opening up those rota plays is never a bad thing for sure. But Stratos also,
Mhm.
something I thought about a lot when I was running Stratos a few months ago, because I was on one Stratos, one Prisma, one Rota, is that Stratos actually just gives you another turn. So even if you do some of the Stratos, it gives you another turn to increase that percentage that you're going to hit the Tiger at some point in time. even if you don't want to go for that first turn Test Tiger play, or Prisma play rather. But so you can see I have a lot of stuff going on that is pretty different. I'm on the main double Test Tiger, which I'll be honest, I have enjoyed a lot since I've been on the double Test Tiger. I'm only on one Compulse, which I feel bad because I was probably the strongest proponent of you have to have three Compulse somewhere in your 55 to 60 list, and here I am being just a scumbag. But it's the side. I think the side deck is what really needs to change, in my opinion, for Gladiator Beast. I think for the most part, we've kind of nailed down a pretty good 40 to 45. You know, whether you're on a build such as this or where you guys are playing the Prisma centric builds, if you will. But what do you think in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like the side deck? What can be subject to change to help with some of like the Blackwing matchups and things like that? And that's where I put in, the Sirocco's and Gales. But how do you guys feel about this type of stuff?
I mean, it really depends on what build you're on first, right? Because like the
Yeah.
side pattern will depend if you have combo play or if you have to grind out your plays. So like something like your build that I'm looking at right now, you don't your ceiling is a lot lower, so you kind of want to
It
go tit
is.
for tat with the Blackwing card. So things like Sirocco seem reasonable, right? Because you summon it, you pump it, plays through Kalut. Maybe like in a Prisma build, maybe I don't want to waste my normal summon on a Soroka, right? Maybe I just
Mhm.
want to either, deny them their summon or,
Mm-hmm.
just clear the path for my combo. So maybe I'm looking into more like traps, an extra trap stun, or, uh, you know, extra trap holes or something like that. You know what I mean? Like just something to enable my
Well,
combo, deny them their play. So it
let
really
me
just
ask you
depends, I
this.
think.
Do you think that the way you're talking sounds like you're almost limited in what you can do in your siding? Because that Prisma engine, whether you're on the Stratos or one, two Prisma, whatever, it can be anywhere from like two up to upwards like 5 or 6 cards that if you did want to drop those Prismas, that's a huge commitment to make in terms of basically changing your whole strategy for how you're playing the game, game two or game three. Do you think that's really consistent? Do you think it's I guess possible to have, I don't know how to say it, have a 40 card list? Because Josh, I know you're always on those 43 plus list or whatever. Do you think it's really possible, I guess possible, feasible to play like a strong Prisma build, but then have a strong side deck where you don't have to, right? It makes your siding options, I feel like, a lot more
Mhm.
limited when you're on a Prisma build.
Well, absolutely, because there's a lot of choices you can make too, right? Like you have options. You can either do like a full side out of the Prisma engine and then dedicate like maybe, five swap outs for that so you can strengthen like a specific matchup, but then you're conceding up those spots for your other things that you want to side for. Or you can just accept the fact that your deck is a Prisma build and, not side it out and then just build around it, which I think is what basically how Josh plays it. Like I don't think Josh you side out any of your Prismas or anything like
No,
that for
Prisma,
Blackwings, right?
no, Prisma Tigers, Sekitors. I think the only monster difference in my matchup ever is Gore's drops in like the GB matchup, and a Red ERA comes out
Hmm.
when it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
Other than
Which is
that,
yeah,
I don't touch that stuff.
it's the
Um,
same for me.
and I think you're saying it the right way. I think to look at it, King, is it's like we know like the game plan functionally is like we basically are setting up like we want to win for when we can and so that we're playing in a positive way, yes, and not like falling behind. However, a lot of the game plan is like there is going to be a turn in which I secure the game state, and I cannot lose at that point. And that's how I feel with Prisma Tiger plays and Sekitor available. Like there's usually a game, even against Blackwings or Hero Beat, that in one turn I like hit a trap stun or a heavy or a wave, and then the game is essentially is over at that point because I get to like a Herc Chariot or something like that where I know that they cannot beat that, and then I just
Exactly.
win from there.
And I think that
Okay.
goes into like what we were talking. Oh, sorry. Did you want to follow up from there?
I just pulled up those 6 cards. I think Josh, you're running your build.
Mhm.
You're on, if I remember, double Trapstone, right? You're not doing three.
Double trap stun, cold wave, and heavy
Okay, so you're
are my
almost on
back row hits
back row
in the
of
main
main.
deck.
So that's at least 7 cards right there that
Mhm.
you
But
don't
also, like
have.
I don't have these. I don't have MST. I don't have three Dust Tornadoes.
Right. But in
So,
terms of it's like flexibility. That's at least like an additional, just generally 7 cards that you wouldn't. I'm not doing that to add to the list. I'm just doing it just to show. But 7 cards that you wouldn't have
Yeah.
I
Oh,
guess,
yeah. I
sided
see what you're saying.
flexibility. So I'm just wondering in terms of like, I guess like saying there are some players who don't want who they want to change their whole list. I suppose. I mean, while I'm playing against Black Wings, I have about 11 cards that I swap in. I think it's basically every monster except one cyber, the Icarus, double Starlight, and the Trap Hole. I just feel like that gives me a lot more flexibility on the sided options than maybe what you have with Prisma. But Trap Stun that's a lethal card against Black Wings.
It's absurd.
Yeah,
Like it just, I feel like one trap stun resolves, you just win the game usually because I'm expecting to blow up their whole field in that turn as well. Um, I so yeah, I guess that'd be my comment on trap stun directly. I also think like um, I just generally don't feel the need to side that many cards against Black Wings. Um,
really.
like for me, I'm like uh, two trap holes. If I have road in the side, I'll put it there. Like I always like to also speak really fluidly about the side deck because
Yeah.
if over the course of 2 months, I might like change like 5 cards in it, and so it's not like here's the universal approach. Two trap holes will always come in. If I have any extra copies of stun, if I do have an MST and tornado inside, those would go in, and oftentimes against like Blackwings, I'll pull out wave, especially going first, maybe not going second. But then really it's just like double smash on top of that, and then I just play the
Oh, dude,
the
smashing.
matchup pretty straight up from there.
Smashing so good. I'll tell you, I have been on the double Starlight side for a while now, and I don't know where this strategy came from, but at least within my locals, game 2 and 3, I guess by extension, the Blackwing players have been siding out Icarus attacks, 1 or 2 copies, just to prepare for Starlight Roads coming in. So now I'm even like second guessing. I don't like main deck Starlight Road, as you guys probably know by this point. I'm a hater of main
Hmm.
deck Starlight. I'm starting to think it's my. I don't even know if it's worth it inside at this point. If they're like setting out those Icarus attacks and
Icarus.
things like that,
Yeah.
I think
It
that's
I very
depends.
interesting.
what were you gonna say, King?
I was just gonna say it depends because Icarus is one of their best removals, but it is. I wouldn't say it's uncommon for them to side out a copy just to bring in extra hate, especially if they're going against a heavy back row deck that they anticipate that might bring in a copy of road. So like they're just hedging their bets, but they're never gonna fully remove all of like I think it's usually more than just one copy they take out. I don't think they go down to
And
I don't think they take out 2 copies.
if someone's thoughtful enough to be like, oh, maybe I would consider going down on Icarus, if they're a good enough player to think that, I think they're probably more likely to keep the Icarus and just pop one of their own sometimes,
Hmm.
and
They'll
like
play
and like
around
be
it.
Traps.
strategic about playing around it as opposed to playing into it. Um, but I mean, it can always still be reduced in the deck as well.
That's
Um,
true.
I hate Starlight Road. I have it in my side ish right now, but it's literally like my least favorite card I
Hmm.
think that I
Yeah,
ever play.
same. I want to drop it and make it, like you said, another Smashing Ground has maybe been like the best card in my entire main deck, outside of I guess Rescue Cat. Honest to God, Smashing Ground has been incredible. So I think that's something I might also bump up the tune for those random Titanial matches. But I think that
Hmm.
brings up a good transition in terms of where do you guys see the side, I guess, heading? Where do you see it heading towards in terms of what players have tried, what they haven't tried? I think I might have said this already that the main 40 to 45 cards are pretty much standardized at this point, unless you're playing one of those Yados builds. Ugh, right? But
We don't talk about
we don't talk
that.
about that. The sides,
Yeah,
though, the
yeah,
side is. I think the sides where Gladiator Beast really makes its money, in terms of
Mhm.
whether you're counterbalancing that and some of the things you guys have tried. I know, Josh, you've been on some of those equip things that we've tried a long time ago, and turns out one of them actually was pretty good.
yeah. King and I went. I think we both like basically like went really hard testing a respite build, a respite, I guess is the correct way to say it.
Yes, the
And
respite
the
build.
takeaway was respite is fun when it works, but usually awful. But we had the equips in there, and it was like Manica is awesome.
Yeah.
It's a very
Um,
good card.
Well,
Unfortunately, it's very targeted.
Yeah.
So if you play against like Black Wings and you have you're under trap stuns, and you're on trap stuns rather, the card becomes very effective because you can just kind of grind them out, and even if they out it once, you retrieve it again, and then they have to out it
Mhm.
continually. But the problem is that this card is pretty much only good against Black Wings and maybe like Light Sworn or something.
Yep.
So in a wide meta where we're in right now, I think I'd rather just have a Smashing Ground to clear Titanials, to clear whatever. But it's a fun card. I mean, it's an interesting card to note. It may be relevant at some point.
You guys were
Yeah.
on like a
That's
main
a,
deck one and a sided one, weren't you? Someone was. I could have sworn. Like you really
I think while we were playing around aggressively with it, maybe there was one main, one sided,
Hmm.
but
back when it
I
started with its
certainly
builds.
landed at like one sided as like
Yeah,
the right call, I think.
that's
Hmm.
fair.
Unless I was testing like a Summoner Monk build where you're like, oh, like
Summer Monk.
GB discarded cards are awesome for Summoner Monk because you just equesty them back and it's crazy. But that's
Summer Monk. What is
that's
that thing?
that's more meme than correct in the best version of GBs.
So I brought
It's
up
fun
Shallow
though.
Grave
I'll
not
tell
as like
you.
a side deck option, but I think this is just a card that hey, if you are, you've been playing Gladiator Beast for a while and maybe you're looking for something to change up the formula if you are like on a Prisma build, this is a card that I actually had a lot of fun with and I think has a lot of potential instead of doing like a second Darius or you could probably still be on two Darius with the Shallow Grave, but basically this is what was really popular back in 2008 before Test Tiger was legal. Or I think it was at the Worlds
And
2008 tournament.
it was at Worlds when
Yeah, Test
Tiger
Tiger
was
wasn't legal, so
TCG.
people were just doing Prisma plays with Shallow
Yeah.
Grave, which means instead of having to have one of your three Tigers, you could just have one Shallow Grave and then have instant access to Gyzaris that way. I guess as long as your opponent has a monster in the grave, but
The monster. Yeah.
if you're going
Hmm.
into Gyzaris, typically probably doesn't really matter.
You don't care about the
Um,
monster, right?
yeah, not at all. Actually, that needs to be gone. I think one more.
I I tested Chalgrave for a while. I actually played Chalgrave at Ribbit, Maryland.
Oh, really?
Um,
I didn't know that.
and yeah, and my conclusion in the end was like you'd be surprised at how frequently it's literally dead.
I don't think I would be surprised at
um,
all.
Yes.
like at least I like there's just a lot of times where it's just you draw it early and like you can it might take 3 or 4 turns before you could even like activate it. And in the meantime, like you're just playing Neg one and I think GB cards in general, like when I go back to like why I don't like Road, is like any card that is not versatile, I don't like. Um, and so like it's just another card where it's just dead if it's not doing what exactly what it specifically does. So
That's fair.
uh,
That's actually why I dropped
Exactly.
down two tigers myself. But I guess it's kind of a card that you're able to play without having to commit your normal summon, which is pretty cool. Um,
mhm,
but you're right. It's
yeah,
just a worse test tiger in basically every way.
yeah, and it's one of those, it's always tough when you have cards like that because like sometimes they shine, like you'll win the match because of it. So it's not like it's not
Yeah,
useful at all, but it's just like on the average when we have to look at things from that perspective. On the average, I think I was more like it should be outside looking in.
that's true.
I will say it does enable some funny plays where
It
you can
does.
Prisma dump of Sangin and bring that back,
Or
which
That is
Spirit
has
true.
come
Reaper.
up for me when I was trying it, but it's not. It's just cute play. It's not actually like an amazing thing you'd want. Just you wouldn't run this just so you could do that, but
Yeah,
it's
but it's
there,
fun.
you know.
Yeah, I think my favorite play I did. I was in like it was like a Switch tournament, and it was a top eight match, and I was playing Ancient Gears, and they had two Ancient Gears on board, and a third one in the graveyard, and I couldn't figure out how to get an attack off. And the way I got the attack off was I used Shallow Grave just so they had a defense position monster that I could attack,
Yes.
and
Yes, that is a real
I
thing
won
for sure.
because of that. But it was crazy.
Mm. That's actually, I think that's actually the main reason I would run it is because it actually gives you a target to attack, and that's the reason I was actually considering it. But I ended up cutting it because the card's too inconsistent.
Yeah,
It is. I'm going to
I
throw
can.
Spirit Reaper up here because I am personally a huge lover of this card. I think this card is a very strong spot in Edison right now with these. Anything that stops any type of combo decks or can just, I guess, stalwart, Black Wings, or whatever for just like a turn when they're expecting anything except Spirit Reaper.
Mhm.
I'm a huge fan of that, and I don't think there's a deck in Edison that does a better chance or does a better job of taking advantage of a resource discrepancy between you and your opponent. So one discard from Reaper, I think you get more with Gladiator Beast than with any other deck. So if you guys haven't tried it, that is definitely a card to try if you're looking for something new or whatever. I love that. And then I'm on to Sirocco on the side. I had it there. I have it with the Gales.
Mm.
Originally, I had 3 Sirocco on the side, but obviously, beyond just the Blackwing matchup, Sirocco is really good against the value matchup, really good against the hero beat matchup, really good against those random, whatever someone wants to run type of beatdown decks.
Yep.
But I dropped one of the Siroccos for a Gale because Gale solves a lot of problems for Blackwings. The same problem that Sirocco typically solves will also outs essentially every single synchro, right? And one
Mm.
Yeah.
for ones against like an absolute zero without a boost. But then it also gives full access to all these incredible cards. Like like Dark End, obviously it combos amazing with the Siroccos, but also with the Cyber Dragon too. So I've really been enjoying this package. But that also allows me to put in the Icarus attack. So I think for some of those players out there, if you're looking for something a little bit different, try something like this. Try something like this and see how that ends up treating you. What else? What else have you guys
This
tried that maybe people can kind of hop
Well,
in
this
on?
actually brings up something. I'm just looking at what you have sided right now. You got the double Sirocco Gale, double Sidra. You could also, like in this side pattern, you could add in a Brain Con too, and it wouldn't even be
Yeah,
that
no,
bad.
that's
Like
absolutely
aside
something
from the
I thought
mirror.
of for sure.
Yeah.
I think at this point, what is it? Gladiator Beast are probably just popular enough that you should expect at some point in a 7+ round tournament to play against the mirror match. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Very possible.
I mean, we've seen it. I think a few tournaments back, like the peak, or not the peak of the peak that's going on right now. The World Qualifier that we just had this past weekend, GBs were the third most popular deck.
Really?
Um, I didn't see any, but it was value was like 29, and only one value topped, which is crazy to me. Blackwing was like 16 or something, and GBs were like 8 or 9, and that was the third most popular deck.
How many people showed up
Um,
for that?
there was 140 something.
Are you serious?
Okay.
I didn't even realize those tournaments were still that popular. Now that's the one you got third place at, right?
Yeah, I went 8-0 Swiss, and then I got third place, lost top four to Jojo Sakari. Congrats to him. He like won a giant card in one of the YCSs recently, and then also got second in this one. He was on Twilight and dismantled me.
Yeah.
Um, I will say it was pretty high roll milling and drawing for him, but it was what it was. That's how that matchup goes sometimes.
Huh. And then King, you also just won. What was it? The
So
Stratos
I didn't
too.
win the Caius tournament, but I
But you
got
won the
third
Strat.
place at I went 6-1.
Yeah,
And
so you showed up. You
on the
represented.
Prisma life, we're representing the Prisma gang.
And you won the
You
Stratos
Prisma
with
doubters.
there you go. All the
Yeah,
elements of
exactly. I won it and I put it in my deck. Literally.
Oh, did you? Well, that's so cool.
Yeah, it actually was the incentive to be like, all right, you know what? I was iffy on Stratos, but I saw Josh do well with it, and then I was like, you know what? I have this new ulti. Let me throw it in
Yeah,
there.
not to mention, we should say too. I played it there, and I have been playing it for like the last month and a half, probably like 2 or 3 months actually. But Morph, we shouldn't ignore him. He showed up with Stratos, Rhoda, and the DD Warrior lady in the main for his win at
Why can't
Oh,
what?
was he on Stratos? I thought he was just on the DD Ward that he was a
Oh,
spice. I didn't know really
he
he
had
was on Stratos.
Stratos, Rhoda, DD Warrior lady all in the main deck.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. So
Yeah.
Stratos has been having his stocks rise
Yes, and he
again.
ran 43 with that as well, which makes sense
Hmm,
just because I don't know. It's
absolutely.
gonna be real tough to fit all the monsters in if you're gonna add those at anything less.
Yeah, not
But
doing no
he,
40 with that.
I
yeah.
guess by extension,
So
that also includes DD Warrior too, because Jake was citing that, and I think they serve probably the same function. Where I guess Warrior Lady could hit something in defense. I suppose I'm not sure.
yeah, it's just
Um,
most people just do the warrior to get around deck dev because warrior lady gets
yeah,
You
hit
mean
by it.
assailant, right? Because warrior is
Assailant,
1200
yes,
sec.
Assailant.
yes.
Yeah.
Assailant is the one that
Yeah,
yes.
assailant to dodge
Um,
deck heavy.
I honestly, I don't even feel qualified talking because I've really never given them a chance. Mostly because I just don't ever really feel like I run into scenarios where that would be the solution that I want, honestly.
Mhm.
But I haven't really given it a chance, so
I'll
I
say
won't
this:
talk
I did
too
run.
much about it.
I ran fairies for a long time. I was a hardcore max rarity first ed where possible fairy player. from about 2022 through like 6 or 7 months through 2023. I did pretty well with the deck. With that, I ran obviously the 3D Warrior Ladies at the time. This card,
Mm.
when you combine it with like double bottomless and triple prison, even if it's just one copy,
Yeah.
but any amounts of it, once you start banishing like three monsters from your opponent's game entirely, if it's Black Wings or
Mm.
whatever,
Yeah.
they run out of resources really fast. So there is something to be said for having like again the double bottomless, triple prison, and then some amount of DD Warrior Lady or Assailant that just goes and makes it so their monsters are no longer reachable. It's very
A very
powerful. You
good
can
card.
win just from that.
Yeah.
It was limited for a reason at one point, you know. It's a
Yeah,
very, very good card.
yeah.
Yeah.
What else? What was it? Breaker. I have it right here. I think this is a card. So I'm also Forks. Forks is actually my other deck that I'm gonna start playing that again here soon. Kind of swap back and forth from decks every few months.
Mm.
This card has to be one of my favorite side cards that I've played in Yu-Gi-Oh in a long time. And I think this is something that I guess I get why you don't play it because between MST, triple dust tornadoes, heavy storm, cold wave, but what's one more spell of trap removal that also takes a normal summon? But for just a 1900 that can eat up any amount of prison, bottomless, whatever it is that you don't want to run your bestiaria or perhaps any of your other monsters into, it's very
Mhm.
strong to open up with a hand of like 3, 4 spells, traps, or whatever, and then like a breaker and a gladiator beast, and just be able to go summon breaker turn one with a 1900 body solves a lot of problems for the deck.
Very good against T set against Vayu as well, because you
So
can
good.
crack their entire board with just the breaker. You crack their D prison if it's not bottomless, swing into the Raiko, and you just went 2 for 1,
Yeah.
which
That's
is
pretty awesome.
very. I see the allure of it. So
I'll
it's
tell
a
you,
very effective card.
sometimes players also just get stunned when you have a breaker and they let you summon
Mhm.
breakers, swing over their Bora, whatever it might be, and then pop their back row, and it happens to be bottomless, and they just didn't bottomless the breaker. That happened to me at a top 8 event
That's crazy.
like a
I'm not
few
gonna
weeks
lie.
ago. I summoned a breaker,
Yeah.
and the guy went,
If they
just
know they're
looked in
gonna
his eyes
lose
and
it,
said,
they
"Oh,
gotta use
okay."
it.
I said, "Attack." He took 200, and then I popped his bottomless.
If
Um,
it's
That's
if it was
crazy.
something like Stratos or something where they're like, I'm saving my bottomless for a GB, I would get that. But if it's Breaker and you know you're losing it, you literally just have to use the
we all
bottomless.
have
And I
You
guess,
can't
yeah.
not do that.
we all have our moments. I the more I play this deck, the more I think, and this might be controversial, that the Blackwing matchup is actually very good. A lot of it, in my opinion, has just gone on to who wins the die roll typically wins the match. That has happened a lot. But I was in a position over the weekend, whereas is actually what is it? Over the past 4 times I've gone to locals, I'm currently was that 4, 6, 12, and 4, I think. For the past
Mhm.
4 events I've gone to locals, I've played Gladiator Beast. And the only reason I lost one of my matches over the weekend was because I had a field of 2 Dust Tornadoes, a set Book of Moon, with a set Gazaris. I had to Book of Moon the previous turn, and like one card in hand or something. And the other guy had exactly 2 cards, summoned Sirocco, and I was playing so fast. Sometimes we just play fast. I said, yeah, that's fine. And then he special summoned Bora, and I just lost. I was like, I
Mm,
can't believe I lost the
yeah,
unlosable game.
especially with the Dust Tornadoes,
Yeah,
that's an easy book and then Dust Tornado anything in the end phase.
yeah, I know. I managed to lose an unlosable game. And then the next game, even worse. I was up 6 cards, and he had 0 cards, and then top decks a Gores. I said, "Why'd you keep that in?" He said, "I forgot to take it out." Unfortunately,
I hate
my
when I
my
Amazing.
Murmillo was banished, and I had nowhere to actually out the Gores once it was on board. Um,
okay. I'll say this too. This is another reason that Prisma builds like Gore. You literally do not have to worry about Gores in Prisma builds
that's true.
because the vast majority of times I feel like I hit Gores, I just Gazaris their field, I hit Gores, and then I just Gazaris hit main phase two.
Well, so I'm
Um,
I'm on the Secutor, and I do the like Gores has never been a problem for me, except this very specific situation where I only had like a Book of Moon for defense, and I attacked with a 2100 the Quarry, and then he dropped his 1 card, his top deck Gores, and then my Murmillo was
right.
banished, so I didn't have any way to out the token or the Gores. Otherwise, I would have won perfectly. But
And, that,
um,
Yeah, that's just
and
unfortunate.
there are times Gores is that level of issue for all decks, right? Like it's not like
Mhm.
I don't want to say like there's 0% chance like Gores will ever be annoying to deal with,
Mhm.
But just
Very
the
different.
scenarios that come up with Prisma, you by default have Bestiary in your graveyard available to Darius significantly more frequently than a non Prisma build,
True.
and just the way that we're able to act, and not even just let's say it's not Bestiary, but let's say it's like, oh, like I attacked with 2100 and something else. Let's say like for some reason Bestiary is not available, like it could be Laquari and you can go and Herc, and if you're not playing like a Caius deck or something, like you don't even care about Herc like the Gores then all of a sudden. And
Mhm.
there's just a lot of ways to handle it, that I think if you're playing the 1-for-1 game and all of a sudden someone comes down and puts two big things on the field, it becomes more difficult.
No, absolutely. That is 100% correct.
Agreed.
But that also means I have to get a third Ultimate Italian Test Tiger if I want to go back to a Prisma build. And those things add to fun. I will tell you
I
that.
mean, that might be true.
Those are still waiting for my second one to come in the mail.
Mm.
Um, what are some other cards you guys might have tried? That's like what, 7 cards there, I
Um,
think.
I- yeah,
Uh,
I mean, like again, I feel like a lot of the stuff I play is like pretty common, like not like surprising cards. Um,
It's gonna be mostly side tech. I know
I
that there was a
think,
time for like a month or two last year where we were just like the three of us were just like hopping on DD every single day, just say, "Hey, put this card on the side, do this, do that," and just like ghosting each other through games with the weirdest things. I don't remember what any of those were.
I mean, I feel like we're looking at a lot of them right now. I don't know if there was a lot of different ones than what we're looking at.
Oh no, it was like
I'm
the Spartacus and stuff like that. That's what it's called.
Oh yeah, that was when we were all embracing respite, and Spartacus is
So
fun again,
I
but it's just
actually
not good.
enjoyed Spartacus. I
I
will
love,
throw that up here.
I definitely enjoy playing with it, but like you can't, it's just not as good.
No, I
I'm not
think
gonna
Period.
lie,
the
hitting the
reluctance.
Spartacus and then hitting the respite right after for the +2 just feels
It,
so damn
Next
good.
level.
it does. It
Next
just
level.
you lose. Like if people complain about Secutor being a dead draw, like let's talk about drawing Spartacus. Like
Oh God,
is
don't
not
remind me.
good.
Well, so here's the thing though. Even if it didn't have this awful, like, even if, so, how do I put this? At level 5, it doesn't bother me at all. It's just the fact that specifically has to be Hopalumnus of all cards, the least offensive Gladiator Beast card, is the only one
Mm.
that can summon
Hmm.
debatably the strongest Gladiator Beast card. How unfortunate. If it were just generic, even at level 5, it'd be. I'd probably play it
Yeah,
I would.
regardless of
I
level
think I
5.
would run it. I think I would
I
run
think it
it.
would get. I think it would get play then.
Yeah.
I don't want to run Optimus in the side or the main. So like
Mm-hmm.
I just don't even think about it whenever
Yeah.
I'm playing serious builds. Like
Sure.
I'll go to locals and I'll play respite builds because I do like respite summoner monk builds are extremely fun to play.
Hmm.
But if I'm going to something that I'm like I want to win this, I can't roll that out there. But if I'm like just going locals, it's so fun to play.
There's a bunch of those GBs that, if they weren't tethered to a specific GB name, would be amazing.
And
Like Alexander, for example, is not affected by spell cards, right? But the problem is you have
you
to
have to
go
put Demakari
from
Yes,
in.
put them
Demakari
apart.
into it, right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it wasn't tied to Demakari, I would absolutely side deck one for like Monarchs or something, right? So they can't soul exchange it. But
Yep.
unfortunately, they decided that this card's too good. It has to be tied
Yeah.
to a
It's
shitty
the.
GB.
Can you
I was
imagine?
playing a 60 card build with Octavius and Spartacus in it, and I'll tell you what came up a few times that was really funny was someone flipping skill drain, and I just put Octavius on the board,
That's so good. That's
and it's
so
just a
good.
2500 beater that just gets to continually sit there.
Hmm.
So
Is
And
that
I
the
was like,
new hidden technology against skill drain?
well, during the Gladiator Beast mirrors back in like 2008, when it was just undeniably the best deck, that's what started happening at my locals. Was people were siding into multiple, multiple of those with 3 skill drains, just so that way they could flip skill drain,
That's
summon the
crazy.
I mean, I
Octavius,
believe it.
and then use their Book of Moons to continuously proc whatever effects it was that they wanted, while basically denying their opponent
Right.
even more the chance to play the game. And
Oh, that's wild.
Octavius behind a skill drain is actually pretty difficult to deal with.
It's pretty crazy. Like I had it up versus a Vayu once because the Vayu guy sided skill drain. And I was like, you just lost the game. I'm just an Octavius, and you can't do it. You can't do anything.
That's amazing. That's
It was funny. I think so just to like make sure I hit on any like side cards that I think are like unique. I really like oppression. I
Yes.
think it is pretty hard to fit in the 15 oftentimes, so I'm not gonna say like you have to have it there, but I feel like there's these random decks where like I really like it against like Diva Hero is probably the best example where it's just like incredible
Yeah. I
against Diva
think even
Hero.
against like the any type of Miracle Fusion deck, it's really good. But the problem is, obviously, I don't even think it matters that it destroys your own cards, right? I think all three of us can say, I know I can say perfectly, and I feel like I can speak for you guys on this as well. Whenever someone has flipped oppression against me, it very quickly turns into like a situation that I'm not locked in here with you, you're locked in here with me. As each
Oh yeah,
Gladiator Beast attack just gets 800 points stronger,
yeah.
essentially, even if you
Like
do go -1. And very quickly, they get locked under their own oppression.
You
Happens all
can
the
do
I
time.
that with trap stun pretty often as
yeah.
well. Like sometimes you'll have a strong push and they'll flip oppression and you go, okay. And instead of you just activate the trap stun, but instead of going bestie on their oppression, you pop their other back row and you
Yeah,
set up a Heraclinos. And now suddenly you have 3k body and you're protected under
under
oppression.
oppression.
So sometimes you can use their oppression against them.
Yeah,
I think
no, happens
there
all
were
the time.
three different games in my in the world qualifier this past weekend or last weekend now. Um, that exact thing happened. They oppressed, I trap stun, and I think two times I was in Herc, the other time I was just in like Laquari, and something else with Chariot set,
Mhm.
and it's just like it's one of the other, in my opinion, side benefits of trap stun. I get like I know like if
Mhm.
you talk to Jake, he's like when I see oppression, I want to remove it, and I totally understand that because it is a nuisance for sure, right?
Yeah,
But I think if you use like there are many scenarios where like you guys are saying where if you use trap stun well, you can just flip the oppression on them, and there's not a lot of decks that can come from behind while under oppression.
Mhm.
And then
And I
if you
think
have
that
hurt
yeah.
that stops their own heavy MSTs when they try to target it, which happens a lot, you just are auto winning.
Exactly. And I think that's kind of it touches on the difference between like pure GB build like Jake plays and then the Prisma build. We were able to set up our graveyard in a way and have access to plays where if we're under trap stun and our opponent flips a oppression, which we trap stunned, we have the option to pivot and then use our graveyard setup that we set up with Prisma to make a huge play, right? Whereas if you're on pure GBs, you don't have that line open to you as often, so you kind of feel the need to have to go pop oppression, right? Which is why I would imagine like in a pure GB build, maybe because of that fact, you prefer Dust Tornado over Trap Stun. It all
Yeah,
depends on the build, right? Like there's advantages and there's lines available to different builds, and the cards synergize in different ways. Which is why I think it's very important if you're playing a certain kind of build of GBs, don't mix and match the side decks from like a pure GB build and a Prisma build because they're kind of doing different things, even though they're both GB decks.
yeah,
yeah, they definitely
that's
hit that goal
definitely
at the end.
the way to put
Um,
it.
I think with that, I actually put up the Fossil Dino, which kind of played a similar role at when we started playing that. That was probably around the same time that we started on the Spartacus builds. Was throwing Fossil Dino into the side.
Fossil Dino.
The idea from that was
Oh,
any deck that in my mind is just on like triple D prison mirror force can easily just support siding Fossil Dino, which kind of plays the same way where as a pressure where just summon this and then force them to do something or just like lose. If that's I don't know. I think there's a strong aversion to a lot of players to say, well, Gladiator Beast needs to normal summon. Why would I play this anti or it needs a special summon? Why would I play this anti special summon card? When the reality is that by the time you play that, like Foster Hunter plus any back row, unless you have specifically Chariot, is better than Gladiator Beast plus back row. Like undeniably better.
it's really good. I've not had Dinah frequently in the side lately, mostly again just due to here's the space I think I have, and it's
Yeah.
just not making the cut. But I always love playing with a Dinah.
Hmm.
I don't think you can double them up. I think that then you just risk overdrawing it when you need
Yeah,
other
yeah.
stuff. But as a one of, I've always really liked Dinah. I think it's fun to play. Both effects are extremely relevant sometimes, and I'm a fan.
Yep.
It's a good card for sure. I mean, just the fact that it has the option of, let's say, like if you set it, you can flip in and clear a duplock and then just swing. I mean, there's also other usages for it too, but the fact that both effects are very relevant is nice. The only issue is, for me personally, is that one, it has to be defended, which is possible, of course. You know, we have deep prisons, we have books and stuff. But sometimes it being tiny sometimes is a hindrance. So that's actually the main reason why I don't play it anymore. But I have sided it before, and it's very strong.
That can't be true. But I'll tell you what, depending on who you're playing against, like if you're playing against Forgs or probably just like Forgs at least. So I'm a big Forg player. I was at a
Mm.
PlayStation 5 event where I think we did 6 rounds, and I was X1 going to last round. In game three against Blackwings, game three, this is for top 8 out of PlayStation 5. The guy just
Mhm.
summoned Fossilana, pass. My hand was double fishboard, double swap frog, and like a substitute or something. And I just
Ouch.
lost. I got OTK the
Ouch.
next turn. So sometimes
Yeah.
that's all you need is just that ability to just say, hey, you can't play this game.
Mhm.
Um, so I
Especially
do
against
think that
Forg.
along with like something like Kaiku or something is definitely. I would like to see more people trying that. I I would like to see people say, hey, these floodgate cards are good because my opponent can't play, not that they're bad because I can't play my own strategy.
It all depends, I guess. I mean, Kaiku
Yeah.
is a great card. Of course, people are sliding him in like Vayu Turbo Mirrors and stuff. It's a very powerful card in that matchup. But it really just depends on, like, can you afford the space in your side for that? Does it, does it?
Mhm.
Do you have something else that's addressing the problem that card is addressing? And I feel like a lot of us, that's basically what it is. Like some of the cards we're bringing in already kind of address what those floodgates are addressing. But that's not to say they're not bad or anything. It's just that there's competing. There's cards that do similar things, and then we're all competing for 15 spots.
Oh yeah.
Yep, exactly the problem.
You
There's
just brought
there's
up
a
a
lot of
matchup. I'll tell you what matchup. I don't know why I just not thought of this. The machine matchup has been messing me up
Ooh.
so badly, and I don't know why. I've never had trouble with machine decks. Maybe it's because I dropped down. I don't know, Compulse. I have no idea. But these like new gadget, ancient gear, Machina builds that have been topping and then are now popping up at locals because people are like, "Oh, I get to run green gadget. It's so cool." Man, I'll tell you what, seeing just like a fortress hit the board while they still have 6 cards in hand, or like a Galgatron dragon plus, I don't know, some field spell that protects it or something, and then like another 3 or 4 cards in hand, is actually it's devastating to see someone just summon like this super strong monster and then still
Mm.
have like a handful of cards right at the end of it.
I
Horrible
think
feeling.
the scary build right now is the Oppression Solidarity Gadget Machina build, where
Yeah.
they just summon a gadget to play Solidarity, and now suddenly all their normal summons are 2,000 beat sticks or
Exactly. Yeah.
more.
Yeah. It's
And you
insane.
know what plays well into that build, though, is actually the Prisma build, because this is actually something that comes up if we're talking about siding and how it's slightly different from the pure GD build. Prisma makes your Cyber Dragons incredibly good, because you can now normal summon your Prisma, reveal her fortress, or in my case, I reveal Cyber Twin Dragon in order to be on my opponent because I have an ulti
Flex it.
first. But
Flex
anyway,
on them.
we dump
Yeah.
that and we contact, and that turns your Prisma suddenly into a removal spell, a removal monster that can just
For
clear,
sure.
machines on demand, which is, I would say, like a positive for the Prisma build. It gives you more utility on your Cyber Dragon. But yes, for the pure GB build, it is tough
I'll even
to
build
it.
on that
deal.
is that if you are on Prisma or double Prisma, whatever, some amount of Prisma, is that you probably don't
Stratos
need to be
by
on double
himself
Cyber Dragon.
also. Stratos by himself is also very, very good in that matchup,
Mhm.
just because the +1 is so valuable.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
doesn't feel as
Like
bad to get.
Prisma's great, but just the +1's great.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't
Um,
feel as bad to see that turn 1 gear frame. But the Prisma means, and when I used to play Prisma, or when I do play Prisma, I only did one Cyber Dragon. I never felt the need to have more than one Cyber Dragon, which meant now I have another open spot for, something else that could potentially ruin my
I
life.
I've gone back and forth on that, and I've still landed on 2 Cyber Dragons,
Really?
partially because, one, if I play the mirror, I want 2 Cyber Dragons. If I play Hero Beat, I want 2 Cyber Dragons.
Mhm.
Even against Machina, I want sometimes my Chimera Tech to come from a special summon Cyber Dragon and not my normal summon Prisma.
Mhm.
Uh, and so And sometimes, like, especially Machina stuff, like, I want to do it multiple times in a game, potentially, not with call or something like that.
Mm.
So I still like 2 in a side, and I used to, like, not like it that much, but I think it because Machina across the board is really relevant. I think 2 is really good because, and also, again, like, it's if GBs are the third most highest matchup, like, 2 Siders is, like, very good in that matchup.
Mm.
And again, Hero Beat's falling off, but if I play Hero Beat, Siders are incredible there. Um, so I still like the 2 with the Prisma build, um, because of, I think, just the value it has in the matchups, and then you just get extra utility out of the Prisma, where it's actually not just like, oh, like, I happen to draw my Sidra. It's actually like a core part of, like, the strategy of beating the deck.
Mhm.
Is
Yep.
like, at some point, it's awesome to draw those early because, like, you're like, okay, now I just play so I can't lose the game in any given turn, so that whenever they get a big sweeping turn, I just go Chimera Tech and wipe their field. Um, and it's incredibly valuable. And you have, like basically between, for me, like, right now, Stratos, Roto, 2 Prisma, and 2 Sidra, 7 cards there that, like, give you Chimera Tech access immediately.
Mm.
It's almost like within, like, 3 or 4 turns of a game, it's probably 65% of chance that you have and some way have access to Chimera Tech. So I think it's like, it is really, really good there. And honestly, like what you guys were saying, the solidarity oppression gadgets are the only ones that, like, scare me. I would say I have a very positive record against anything else machine related. And that one I struggled a long time with, and I still say I actually think it's worse than Hero Beat. I think it is the worst matchup in Edison for GBs.
It's like a
Like,
machine
Hero
gadget
Beat, I
stuff.
feel like, yeah, Machina Gadget with Solidarity and Oppression, like, main
Yeah,
deck.
that's terrifying.
It just, everything it does is, like, the worst thing for GBs to deal with.
And they can
Like,
run Horn of Heaven, which means you
yeah,
have to play the game of, do I preemptively trap stun?
yeah,
Because normally you hold it for value, unless you think you can clear everything. So it's kind of terrifying. You're sitting there like, ah, crap, I have to preempt this, otherwise they're just gonna Horn of Heaven me, and I
yes.
can't even make a play.
It's so bad. It feels, everything feels, or if you, like, summon Laquari and Chariot turn 1, they just smash, and it
Mhm.
doesn't matter. Like, it's such a bad feeling. But
Yep.
I will say this. So, first of all, Prismas are obviously great in the matchup because of access to Cyber Dragon.
Mhm.
2, the way you beat the deck, hands down, is Herc in defense mode.
Oh yeah.
The deck literally cannot out Herc in defense mode as long as you have negates. And so I have changed the way I play versus that deck, where I'm not like, okay, I have Herc in defense mode as an option. Here, I'm going to do it. I literally only play the game to get to that board state. And so there are times where I won't summon, I won't use a Tiger, I won't use a Trap Stun when I could, to just exchange a little bit of value, unless the end state of that move is going to get me to Herc in defense. Because as soon as I get that, the game literally ends. They cannot out it.
Mhm.
And so, like, if I can give anyone, like, a tip, that if they listen to this and they're struggling with that matchup, and this is only going to work if you're on Prisma test deck of GBs, because you're just not going to be able to get to 3 GBs consistently enough without them. But if you just play the matchup and don't think about anything else but that, it gets so much easier because you don't even worry yourself with a lot of the little stuff. You just wait for a safe Cold Wave or Trapstone turn. You get into your Herc, ideally with Chariot, and then you just go in defense mode. And, like, usually, in my experience, they, like, go 10 turns and then realize they can't out it and then quit.
Why
And
is
I want to
that?
point out for people that if they're wondering why specifically defense mode, it's to prevent the fortress crash, because
Oh, yeah.
that will, I mean, if it's not apparent. But I will also say that if you're stuck in the grind game with them, if you haven't set up the Herc, this is another argument to run Compulse in the main. Compulse on Fortress is very strong, because if you send it back to their hand, they have to pitch another card to get it back out. So another +1 for main Compulse, just as an aside.
Yep. That is a good call out. And I'll say this too. The only out to that Herc in defense that actually isn't through Spell Trap is a Sidra +2 machines. They get to a 3K Chimera Tech. So, also randomly,
That's crazy.
impulsing the 3K Chimera Tech. basically, whenever I get to those game states, I like try and do it also when I'm timing it with like a book or a compulse ready too. But that's the only other out that they have realistically, which takes like the only other positive there is that takes like all of their resources. Like they're
Right.
going special Sidra, special or normal like a machine, discard fortress and another machine to make this one chimera attack. And if it doesn't work out, they're screwed.
Yep.
And it doesn't work out
That's
because
so funny.
you run so many outs to that. It's just crazy.
Yeah, just one book just clears and it's
Yeah.
over.
There you
Um,
go. Wise words.
I've had games against them where I end the game with 3 Hercs in defense.
I've
I've
hit
done that
2
too.
before
I
against
have
that.
to
I never
beg
hit
people
3
to.
though.
I have to beg people not to quit, but I have some in 3 Hercs in 1 game. Please,
It's
don't quit.
the only time I did it before that deck was I was playing some weird deck with Arcana Force, and the Arcana Force couldn't be destroyed or targeted at all.
Oh yeah.
And it was the fairy deck that was able to not just with Pot of Avarice, but some other way like replenish their deck. And they were going to deck me out. So all I did every turn was contact fuse so that I kept adding cards back to my deck.
I'm sorry, that's hilarious. Well, that's crazy. Did you end up winning?
Oh yeah, I went okay. In the time I went from like 25
Oh my
cards to 21 cards. He went from like 20 cards to like 3 cards because I just I
jeez.
kept like contacting. I went +1 in my deck every turn for a long
Oh, I
time.
love that. I
Some
love
games
that.
that's just
And
what
that actually,
happens.
that I have an aside on that. This specific scenario is a demonstration of the versatility of GBs and why I consider it like the like the garbage man of Edison, right? We
Yeah,
kind of clean up all these rogue strategies because our deck is so versatile. We have negates, we have spell and trap removal, we have monster removal. So anything that's weird like that, you have a solution with Glad Beast with. So you don't have to worry. You just got to find the line, which is one of the reasons why I love this deck.
I 100% agree.
I agree. I've
So you said garbage.
often just find
I
it.
literally just in my group chat the other day I said we're the police of Edison. So
Exactly.
we, we
Get
keep
everyone out.
all of the stuff that you don't want to deal with. Honestly, we keep Forgs and Giga in check.
Mhm.
So like these other decks, like people complain about GBs sometimes, but like playing Forgs and Giga is way worse than playing GBs to me. Like
No,
that
I
those
agree, but
decks
there are
are
haters out
so
there.
annoying.
There are some
What?
serious haters out there that are yelling and cursing at you right now for even suggesting such a thing. There's someone, I
I've
I
heard
would
guarantee there is
argue.
someone right now that is saying, and his name is Dat Jinja, who's saying, no, this is the
We
most
love
cringe
Logan,
deck.
but he's a professional GB hater.
Absolute hater.
very true.
uh,
Absolute
I
hater.
will argue that GBs is the reason why the combo meta has not fully taken over. Because if GBs didn't exist, it would be basically on the back of like Black Wings to deal with that, and
Yes.
maybe to a lesser degree Vayu. And I don't think they're equipped to be like a complete counter to.
No.
They'd have to change their main deck completely and run like Threatening Roars or some crap like that. And then so we exist to serve the Edison community. So
I agree.
kneel.
They really need to say thank you. Thank you for
They need
making this
to, for
deck
sure.
so I don't have to face Forgs every single round. And it's crazy. As someone who does specifically almost only play Forgs and Glider Beast, I'm convinced that Forgs is the best deck of the format, but I'm also convinced that, wow, does Gladiator Beast just absolutely smoke that deck so badly, it's legitimately painful to match up
Mhm.
against him. It hurts.
Yeah,
It's so awful.
Yeah, the Caius tournament I went to, the guy who ended up winning out, his only loss was to me because he's the only Gladiator Beast player that he played on Forgs.
That's
Everyone
Mhm.
else he just destroyed because the Forg deck is insane, but it just plays so poorly into GVs that like that they have to respect the fact that the deck exists and it keeps it in check.
Yes. Yeah. Forgs are I I'd probably agree. I think I'd face value. It like might be the best deck in Edison, just because it can do so much.
no other deck can do what Forks can do at all. Giga kind of gets
It's
there,
crazy.
but
Scary
very
deck.
differently. And I don't think it's
Very
nearly as tough
very
as Giga.
differently. It doesn't
Forgs
draw it
scary.
doesn't draw enough to match it because it's just inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
Just folds the GVs, which is what
It
keeps it
does
in
so
check.
much. We literally we main deck like 9 cards that stop the combo. We side like 2 to 4 more in, and then we have her. It just like
and just having him under like anti-spell and like another
Yes.
interrupt, the game just ends, and it's just they just can't play through that.
Yeah.
Can we actually talk about anti-spell? That's a good segue into
Yeah.
that card.
Sure.
I'm a big fan of anti-spell in general, but I do know a lot of like other GB players don't think that it's worth. I think if you're on anti-spell, you have to be on Prisma because it kind of changes the rules of the game a little bit, right? Because
Yep.
now your opponent's incentivized to set spells, and now you have to capitalize on that. So being able to capitalize on that means you need to clear their spells, which obviously Prisma into Geyserus or whatever Prisma combo you want to do is much more stronger play into that. But it just deals with so many problems, right? Like you set the anti spell, you flip it. Now your forward player, if they're converting into Dreamfrog, they can't Soul X you, they can't they can't
Mhm.
do any of the things that would normally out anything, right? Or like against the Dragon Turbo player, they have to have a monster effect like Snipe Hunter or something, or some out like that, or they just
Yeah.
fold, right?
100%.
That it's extremely good. I wouldn't say I resisted it is not the right way to put it. I just didn't try it out for a long time. But when I've put it in recently, there is a fairly narrow pool of decks you even put it in against. Like I will only do it against Forgs, Giga, Dragon Turbo, or specifically like Frog Narcs where they have
Mm.
all the spells. I don't like it versus Hero
Mhm,
Frogs personally,
mhm.
um, but it is so good because it just stops off all their plays. They can't do anything, and then like you said, King, it's just like you're gonna Gazaris Bestiar their back rows, and like at that point, like they just lose. Like they can't do anything.
Mm.
The only caveat I would give, and I don't know if this is so much caveat as more maybe just like a personal complaint, and why, even though I like my in the World Qualifier, I had it in there. I didn't use it at all because it. I think I cited it once and didn't see it. Um, I really don't like not being able to read their back rows
Mhm.
because when you have anti spell up and they set 3,
You
you
don't know.
like your game plan is like I have to destroy these
Mhm.
this turn, and you don't get a read on what's a trap or what's not. And I don't think that's a good enough reason not to run the card, but I personally just really hate it when I feel like I can't like look at a card and like kind of profile it for what it is.
Right.
Um, because it could just be heavy because they had to set it, couldn't play it, or it could be Regeki break or prison and punish you. Um,
That is a
so
drawback of the card for sure, and I've noted that as well because it kind of turns the game into like an ignorant trap fest. To be honest, with you, like it's just
mhm,
it's such a degenerate floodgate that I think like GBs is the only one of the few decks that actually can capitalize on. And like unfortunately, that's what you have to do if you're playing the card. You just have to recognize that hey, we're just turning this into an ignorant, like hey, I'm just gonna go for it, play,
yeah,
and then if they have the perfect back row, okay, well if I don't have the out to that back row, well,
Force them to have it, yeah.
is what it is.
I think you guys have
They
really
better have it.
convinced me to go back to a Prisma, a similar Prisma build that I was running before with the Trap Stones and the Prisma up to this point.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's advantages to either one, of course. Like you talk to Jake, he put out a really good video. I watched the entire thing. It was illuminating because I got to see way like why he did what he did. But it's
Into the
his
mind.
like, yeah, the pure GV build, if you play it correctly, is very strong. But
Yeah,
like it requires like some next level patience and like every micro advantage you gotta like capitalize on, and it's just I don't know, man. I personally would gas out round 5 and I'd make a misplay, and
yeah.
my run
I
would be over by then.
uh, I think that's it's the gameplay. It's actually I think similar to how I would compare it kind of to like how I mentioned like when I play those Machina gadgets now, I only play with the goal of getting to Herc defense. Um, and I think what Jake said in those videos, this isn't like the exact way, but he's like, I play with the specific vision of getting to like a 2v2 card or a 3v3 card. And then I win the advantage battle because GBs will go +1 every turn in that
Mhm,
scenario while they can't go +1 like that.
mhm,
And so the reason his deck works so well for him is because he's literally playing like game turns 1, 2, 3, 4. He's not playing to win the game. He's not playing to do damage. He's playing to simplify the game state with at least a GB left, so
mhm,
that then he wins the +1 battle the rest of the way. And I think people don't realize that that's a very specific line of decision making.
mhm,
That it if you're not like playing in that direction, the deck will lose a lot more because you're like, well, like it feels underpowered. It's like it's because
Mhm.
you're not really doing the control aspect enough because you're not focusing on eliminating their resources.
I think we were joking about this when we saw Jake win. The first thing I said was, "Someone's gonna look at this list, net deck it, and say, what the hell? How did this crap top? This
Yeah,
crap is dog water. You know, like it's not playable." I'm like, well, it's because you don't understand why these cards are put together
yeah,
the way they are. And unfortunately for you, Jake is just built different. We've
yes,
been glazing this man's entire. I hope you're listening to this, Jake, because
yeah,
we love you. Honestly, like you're the godfather of GBs. So we're gonna glaze you a little bit, all right?
100%.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm.
Nothing wrong with that.
Um,
Well,
was there any other Was there any other side cards you wanted to talk about, or?
I don't think I have anything specific. We just hit about an hour,
No,
and
Mm.
I'm nearly GB'd out, to be completely honest with you.
Okay, we
um,
can call it here then. It was a good discussion.
it
I
was
enjoyed it a lot.
hopefully so too.
Yeah.
I think it's good just to,
Yep.
what was the word I used? Just go on, just ad hoc it, just make stuff up on the fly, and just talk. I know there's a lot of players out there, especially right now, who are just picking up GBs for the first time or getting back
Mhm.
in Edison. Be like, oh, hey, I always play GB. And they're just like, but where do I start? So it's cool just to have, I guess, if you take like Jake's channel, it's like, hey, here's this very specific deck list where I'm making very specific choices. That's probably geared a little bit more towards someone that's been playing GB for a pretty long time compared to something like this where it's just, let's just get on and just hear random card choices, this or that. One's probably a little bit easier to listen to than the content of
Mm.
here are these wildly specific
Yeah.
plays with specific scenarios that probably a little bit more for the advanced audience than
I've
someone who's
struggled with
just
that
trying to
too.
learn.
Just like a random comment. It was like, I mean, people like I get a lot of DMs pretty frequently about people trying to
Wow,
learn,
popular.
and I'm not.
He's the
I'm
man.
just. I'm only saying it because half the time I don't know how to respond because they're like, well, what do I do to start? I'm like, I don't know like what to do to start because I don't know like what true like step one should be, because there are different builds to choose from. Like I've like told people that I think like the Yados build's not what you should do. However, if you want to play GBs on ultimate easy mode where you don't have to make as many decisions and you're just like maybe you start to learn the mechanics, like you could start with that. But I would caveat them immediately and tell them like it's worse than this one. Like it is just definitively a worse deck because Tigers and Cat are better than Yados. Like that's the debate ends immediately when you think about the fact that that's essentially like the trade off those two decks are making.
Mhm.
Um,
Agreed.
I've done a few videos on Edison Club's channel trying to like do what I not like it's not like a full like GB intro, but it's like here's a dive into like Darius and the combos that you should be thinking about around Darius and how to use it and like examples of how to do it. And I did the same with like Secutor. Um, and I think like for someone who's actually trying to like learn the deck at a high level, I'm not starting to say that go watch the like my videos specifically,
Go watch
but
his
like
videos. I will
you
say it.
you have to understand they're like all the like this it's such a toolbox deck like the definition of a toolbox deck because you can go get any of them at any time that like you need to like really shift your mindset of how you think about it and like apply those tools in a way that like is scenario specific and it takes time to do it at a really good level because there's so much uniqueness to every scenario every matchup and even like we've said like even like your
You
decision is
know
going to
what?
influence how you.
You bring up a good point in terms of uniqueness. I will put it this way that what is it by like turn 7 in chess or something, there's more moves available than there are like stars in the universe or just something absolute some ridiculous
Yep.
number. Well, look at it this way. In two 40 card decks that could be entirely unique, completely randomized, it is almost, how do I put it, 100% guaranteed that your deck has never shuffled the same way twice, no matter how many times you've played. Now multiply that two for two players, and then how many different decisions you're making each time. Game states may be similar, but you have never once played the same game twice in Yu-Gi-Oh! It hasn't. It's impossible for it to have happened.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right to just, I don't know. There's a lot of people when they give out examples, they give a lot of definitives for why certain cards are good or why certain cards are bad, but definitives are just like not
That's
not
why
good
I
with
hate
card
it
games because
so much. It's like my biggest pet peeve by far. Every time someone asks for advice, they ask for a definitive answer, and I'm like,
Hmm.
there is no definitive. There's like so much nuance to this, and like I can try and say like, here's the general reply, but the if then like branching of like decision making is so much wider than you could ever give until you
yes,
look at the actual board state and game state and can decide.
yes,
And I will say, as like my final little point, is that it segues off of what you were just talking about earlier. Is that this deck, there's no definitives because the build itself, the deck itself, can be built in God knows how many ways. It's a very modular deck, right? You have the core like 20 cards or whatever, then you can build it. You want to increase the ceiling? You can throw some Prismas in with an engine for Prisma. You want to main deck Secutor to increase the ceiling even more? You can. You want to remove all those, play more back route? You can. You want to do like a hybrid of both? You can. You want to run Iatos and like that be your ceiling? Sure.
Yep.
But like that's why you can't really just say side XYZ for element OP, right? Each build is
Yeah.
different. You got to really understand why you're bringing in certain cards. Why are you taking out certain cards? What's your matchup? How does your specific build match line up with the other matchups, right? And
And
that takes
sometimes,
time.
yeah, and sometimes it's even like we've talked about recently. Like, do you have two Darius or one?
Yeah.
Because as soon as you switch to one Darius, I've found that works really well for me. But it's because like literally every single turn, I'm thinking about the fact I only have one Darius available, and I'm managing the game state to accommodate for that fact and that reality. And like you have, so like if your build only has one Darius, you have to think about that, how you're tagging, what order you're tagging, if you're willing to take a Darius target, a GB risk. If you can't afford it, like you don't do that, even though if you had two, you might just be like, oh, like if he gets bottomless, whatever. So you have to think about all those things to make the
Mhm.
right decision frequently.
Exactly.
agreed, agreed. But that could be a whole other video in terms of siding.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That absolutely
Yeah, we can make
shades.
10 videos on this, man.
I don't know.
I think siding is
It goes back
probably
to like I don't know how to start on that conversation because it's
just build the deck and just go right. Like siding, just build the deck and
Exactly.
go. It's the only way you can really start. And
Just
siding is
play and you'll
yeah,
see.
siding's got to be the
yes.
most difficult part of Edison, in my opinion. Siding is so
Mhm.
hard. But
Definitely
gentlemen,
agreed.
thank you
It
both
took me a
very
long
much
time
for
to
your
get
time,
confidence.
your consideration, the community. We love you. Thank you.
Bye
I
bye.
guess I think we'll call it here. Good discussion.
It's been a good episode of Discussing. Goodbye.
See ya.
See you guys.